A very good morning. It's just past 8 this Friday morning and we're back again with another edition of Breakfast News. Over the next 60 minutes, we'll get you the latest from the world of business, politics, sports and entertainment. Well, today is September 11th. September 11th, an important day in the landmark of history because it was on this very day that the World Trade Center was attacked. 9/11, 19th anniversary of that particular day, a day that shook America and had a global impact worldwide.
Yes, not only America. Oh, yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Not only America, but also it shook the world as well. But Anil, there is this thought that strikes me that this incident did, make us realize how important life is, how precious life is. And here I'm reminded of this thought by Marcus Aurelius. He's the Roman emperor who said, when you rise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to enjoy, to love, and to breathe and to think. So, in a nutshell, it is really important for us to realize how important and privileged we are to wake up every morning. On that note of positivity and optimism, let's begin the breakfast show. I'm Preeti, with me is Anil. First, the headlines.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address the two-day digital conclave on transformational reforms on school education in the 21st century under the National Education Policy 2020 today.
India and China reached consensus in bilateral meeting between External Affairs Minister Dr. SJaishankar and Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi in Moscow on the sidelines of the SCO. Both agreed to quickly disengage and expedite work towards new confidence-building measures.
India, US urge Pakistan to take immediate, irreversible action against terror groups in the third US-India counterterrorism joint working group and designations dialogue.
India slams Pakistan propaganda at the UN Forum on the Culture of Peace for spreading anti-India rhetoric and calls the attempt as unfortunate.
Union Minister for Information and Technology Ravi Shankar Prasad to release the second edition of Ranking of States Startup Ecosystem in the presence of Union Minister Piyush Goyal via video conference today.
Meghalaya rolls out a piggery development project, the largest in the country, to augment farmers' income and achieve self-sufficiency in food and nutritional security. The 200 crore project likely to benefit to 20,000 enterprises in the state.
European Union condemns the United Kingdom government's unilateral decision to override the divorce deal as an extremely serious violation of the deal and international law. EU also threatens trade sanctions against the country.
And at the US Open, Naomi Osaka books her berth in the final of the women's singles with a hard-fought 3-set win over Jennifer Brady. Serena Williams to meet Victoria Azarenka in the other last 4 contests, which is billed as the Battle of Supermoms.
Well, now for the stories in detail, starting first up with that big meeting at the SCO between the two external affairs ministers.
Yes, talking of that, External Affairs Minister Dr. SJaishankar met his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi on Thursday in Moscow. Also, the meeting was held on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting. Both the ministers had constructive discussion on the developments in the India-China border areas as well as on India-China relations. The two ministers agreed that both sides should take guidance from the series of consensus for the leaders on developing India-China relations, including not allowing differences to become disputes. The two foreign ministers also agreed that the border troops of both sides should continue their dialogue quickly, disengage, maintain proper distance and ease tensions. They also agreed that both sides shall abide by all the existing agreements and protocol on China-India boundary affairs, maintain peace and tranquility in the border areas, and avoid any action that could escalate matters. Both the leaders also agreed that as the situation eases, the two sides should expedite work to conclude new confidence-building measures to maintain and enhance peace and tranquility in the border areas. All right, to talk more about that, our correspondent Amritpal Singh is joining us. Amrit, we've given a broad outline of the meeting which the External Affairs Minister had with his Chinese counterpart. Evaluate the significance of the meeting for us, given the meeting comes in the midst of continued India-China standoff at the LAC.
Well, it was a very important meeting, Preeti, yesterday between the foreign ministers of India and China. As you rightly said, that it comes in the backdrop of the simmering tensions at the LAC. Now, the two foreign ministers yesterday agreed on a 5-point outline to resolve the issue. These points that you mentioned are very clearly the two leaders agreed that tensions shouldn't allowed to be escalate. The two sides should abide by the consensus that was reached between the leaders, very clearly referring to the consensus reached between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi, both in 2018 and 2019, what is popularly referred to as the Wuhan spirit and the Mamlapuram or the Chennai Connect, that differences should not be allowed to become disputes. The two sides also agreed that the border tensions should be de-escalated immediately. The border troops, the border military commanders should continue their talks and look at ways how to disengage further and not allow it to escalate any further. The two sides also agreed that all protocols need to be followed. All the protocols that are in place, the 1993 protocol, the 1996 protocol, which the Chinese had very, very clearly violated last week when the Indian Army alleged that they resorted to firing because it has been agreed in these protocols that no firearms will be used. Even small firearms shall not be used at the border, and if any sort of arms have to be used, the other side needs to be intimated. India also stressed upon the fact that the Chinese troops should not resort to changing the status quo unilaterally. The two sides also agreed that the SR level talks should be the working mechanism to resolve all border related matters, and finally the two sides agreed that as tensions ease, new CBMs need to be put in place so that such situations can be avoided. So primarily the focus right now of the two sides agreeing that it is in the interest of neither side to escalate matters any further. Status quo ante needs to be restored. The militaries need to talk to each other. The tactical commanders on the ground need to continue their talks, and escalation further should not happen, and the existing mechanisms should be resorted to, and once tensions ease, new CBM should be put in place.
Okay, yeah, Amrit, considering the fact that this particular 5-point consensus has been arrived at, what pushed China to arrive at this particular point? Because it gave a very different picture when you look at what was happening there at the eastern Ladakh region. But this particular point, this 2.5-hour long meeting that took place between the two foreign ministers, what actually transpired that led to this?
That's a very good question, Anil. Well, as you know, the situation on the LAC is really, really precarious. Both armies have amassed massive troops. If we go by some figures, the Chinese have put about 50,000 troops there, including artillery, guns, tanks, armored vehicles. The Indian side has also mirrored the deployment. So it is really the LAC in the eastern Ladakh sector has become a flashpoint. These are armies sitting right next to each other. We saw the Galwan incident. We saw incidents of the 28th, 29th night. But what changed at the South Pangong Lake is now the Indians are at commanding heights, at least when it comes to the South Pangong Lake. Even on Finger 4, on the northern side of the lake, you've got heights which are higher, at least overlooking the Chinese deployment on Finger 4. Now, what the Chinese wanted to do was the Chinese wanted to negotiate with you from a point of strength. The Indian army understood the situation very quickly on the ground and tried to preempt any move by the Chinese to do so. Now, while the Chinese, it's a fact that the Chinese have a certain edge, they are refusing to go back to Finger 8, which is the perceived LAC from the Indian side. They are sitting at finger five, but they're refusing to go back and have some sort of tactical advantage. But the Indian army has now a tactical advantage at on the southern side. They're sitting at higher heights. And when you know in mountain warfare, what matters by the end of the day is the heights that you occupy. Now, when the two foreign ministers sat in Moscow yesterday, both knew the situation on ground. It was, you were talking from a point of strength. So the Chinese agreed that now the situation needs to de-escalate. It is in the interest of need.
All right, that was our correspondent Amrit Pal telling us more about the meeting which the External Affairs Minister had with his Chinese counterpart. We'll talk more with him with on other news as well. He is there with us. But up next, let's talk of
well, let's talk about the MEA only. And talking more about the MEA, India and United States have denounced the use of terrorist proxies and strongly condemned the cross-border terrorism in all its forms. Attending the third US-India Counterterrorism Joint Working Group and Designations Dialogue virtually, the two sides exchanged views on threats posed by UN-sanctioned terrorist entities. They also emphasized the need for action against all terrorist networks that included the Al-Qaeda, the ISIS, the Lashkar-e-Taiba, the Jaish-e-Mohammed and the Hizbul Mujahideen. The two sides also shared information about their priorities and procedures for pursuing sanctions and designations against terrorist groups and individuals, particularly in light of the recent legislative changes in India. The two sides underlined the urgent need for Pakistan to take immediate, sustained and irreversible action to ensure that no territory under its control is used for terrorist attacks, and to expeditiously bring to justice the perpetrators of such attacks, including the 26/11 Mumbai and Pathankot attacks. The US reiterated its support for the people and the government of India in its fight against terrorism.
And also, India has slammed Pakistan for using UN platforms for spreading anti-India rhetoric. During the high-level forum on culture of peace on Thursday, India called the Pakistani attempt as unfortunate. In a statement, India said that we have witnessed another attempt by the delegation of Pakistan to exploit a UN platform for hate speech against India. India further added that Pakistan's deplorable human rights records and discriminatory treatment of religious and ethnic minorities is a cause of persistent concern for the international community. Talk of culture of peace from the delegation of Pakistan is nothing but a decoy to divert attention from their own shameful records. Further tearing apart the duplicity of the Pakistani side, India said that before making absurd allegations against India, where equal rights of people of all faiths are guaranteed by the Constitution, the delegation of Pakistan must do itself a favor of looking at their own system and records of protecting minorities. Referring to the ongoing pandemic worldwide, India expressed readiness to support all efforts to build bridges of understanding across the world, to emerge stronger from this crisis and to shape the foundation for a better world. The statement also underlined the importance of collaboration in dealing with misinformation campaign. And our correspondent Amrit will spell out more details. Amrit, a harsh-worded statement coming in from Indian side where it has slammed Pakistan for using UN platforms for spreading the anti-India rhetoric. Get us a background on this.
Well, this was the U.S. Forum for the Culture of Peace, where Pakistan, the Pakistani diplomats tried to project India as some sort of an aggressor who is violating the rights of the minority. So India retorting to that, saying that Pakistan is spreading disinformation. It needs to look inwards and set its own house in order, listing out the kind of atrocities that are meted out to the minorities there, be it Hindus, Sikhs, Christians, how the blasphemy laws are misutilized in that country, and how the world knows that they are hand in glove with even UN designated terrorists. So clearly India putting that while a culture of peace is a desirable thing, but there seems duplicity in Pakistani argument, And Pakistan needs to set its own house in order before it preaches India and tries to defame it in front of the world, as the whole world knows what the real situation is. And Pakistan's bluff cannot pass muster or, when it comes to convincing the international audience or the international community as to who is actually with peace and who stands against peace.
Considering this particular attempt by Pakistan, Amrit, how do you look at it? This is another failed bid by Pakistan to taint India. Time and again bizarre attempts being made, but this was one of the most bizarre that you have seen, of the many attempts that they have made.
Realistically speaking, India and Pakistan, Anil, both use international fora to target each other. The fact of the matter is that on the ground, the situation that exists in Pakistan is something which is the whole world is aware of.
Okay.
Osama bin Laden was captured in their own backyard. In their National Defense Academy is just meters away from where Osama bin Laden was living and hiding.
Okay.
So it is unfathomable for the world to believe that the Pakistanis did not know it or did not look the other way if they weren't helping him out. Now, clearly, there are other terrorists in Pakistan, Hafiz Saeed, Jangvi. So there are terrorist organizations like the Jaish-e-Mohammed, the Lashkar-e-Taiba. These are UN designated organizations. We know how it dragged its feet on Masood Azhar. We know the sort of atrocities, are meted out to the minorities there.
Okay.
We know what they do with the Balochs. The whole world is aware how there is a little occupation and human rights abuses in Balochistan, in Pakhtunkhwa. So the world is pretty aware of that, and so when Pakistan uses international fora and targets Indians saying that, oh, they're committing atrocities against their minorities, India, it's expected that is expected to sort of retort to that and say that before you preach, please look at yourself, take a good look at yourself.
Okay.
So that's what transpired there at this forum, yes, UN forum, yes.
Okay, Amrit. Thank you and appreciate you joining us this morning with those updates there on those three issues. A pleasure having you here this morning there talking on all the three issues.
Yes, let's get to other important news of the day, which we will be tracking. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will today address a conclave on school education in 21st century under the National Education Policy 2020 through video conference. The two-day conclave is being organized by Ministry of Education as part of Shikshak Parv. Earlier, Prime Minister had also delivered the inaugural address at the conclave on transformational reforms in higher education under the National Education Policy 2020 on August 7th and also addressed the Governors' Conference on Education Policy on September 7th.
The National Education Policy 2020 aims at making India an equitable and vibrant knowledge society. It envisions an India-centered education system that contributes directly to transforming India into a global superpower. A two-day online conclave on school education in 21st century has been started on Thursday by Ministry of Education. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address the conclave on Friday. Discussion on important themes of national education policy for school education and important aspects related to schooling are taking place by experts during this conclave. This conclave is being organized as a part of Shikshak Parv, which is being celebrated from 8th to 25th of September.
हमारे हर स्कूल में लगभग 1,60,000 स्कूलों में व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप बने हुए हैं। गांवों में रहने वाले बच्चे जहां थोड़ा नेट प्रॉब्लम, डेटा प्रॉब्लम अभी है, तो इसके बावजूद भी 42 लाख के आसपास बच्चे हमारे उन व्हाट्सएप ग्रुपों से जुड़े हैं, जिनके लिए प्रतिदिन हम विषयवार और टॉपिक वार जो उनकी कक्षाओं का विषय है, वीडियोस के लिंक, इवन हमारे उसमें 3 स्तर पे काम होता है सर। एक तो हमारे जो टीचर है इनिशियल लेवल पे वो क्या करते हैं, जो उनका कंटेंट है हम शिक्षक उसको खुद बनाते हैं, उनकी पाठ्य पुस्तकों, उनके सिलेबस के अकॉर्डिंग, और उसमें वीडियो डालते हैं, उसमें पीडीएफ डालते हैं और उसमें प्रोजेक्ट्स डालते हैं।
Talking about school education, the entire policy structure has been changed to 5+3+3+4 instead of 10+2. Apart from this, a target has been set to achieve 100% gross enrollment ratio from preschool to class 12th by 2030. In addition to this, the education policy focuses on integration of curriculum according to the skills needed in 21st century while developing scientific thinking in students, setting professional standards for teachers, changing assessment policy and promoting vocational education from 6th standard onwards. With inputs from Nishant Saurabh's report, TD India.
All right, our correspondent Tapas is joining us to get us more on that. Tapas, Prime Minister will today address the conclave on school education in 21st century under the National Education Policy 2020 through video conference. Now, talking about the implementation of this policy and what it aims, it aims to achieve holistic development in the children when we talk of skills, when we talk of enhancing scientific temperament, isn't it?
Absolutely, and it is expected to be a watershed moment in Indian history. Remember, the last time any changes took place in the education policy was way back in 1986. So after almost close to 3.5 decades, a policy change has been initiated, and that too, and it is expected to be a game changer for a country like India, where we have always seen that we do have the manpower, we do have the necessary human skills, but human resources, but when it comes to providing them that that extra bit of going that out of the way and making them employable, that is something that was lacking for a long time, and we were always talking about the fact that the education policy needs to come to terms with the 21st century, and in this 21st century, knowledge is the key, and to be a knowledge superpower, this NEP is going to play a major role. So in that sense, this is going to be a key decision in the 21st century. And in fact, this national education policy will go a long way in rectifying what the industry has been talking for a long time about making Indian workforce more employable. So that is a huge thing, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been talking about knowledge power, and what better way to be a knowledge superpower in the 21st century than getting it in the national education policy, which is expected to be a holistic and reinvigorate India's education system over the period of time.
Well, thank you and appreciate you joining us, Tapash, with those inputs there. The new education policy envisions an India-centric education system that will contribute directly to transforming the country into a global superpower. So that's exactly what's happening there, and the Prime Minister going to address it today.
Education in India will not just be about books, but the holistic development of the kids. All right, let's move on to other updates now.
Well, looking at the next story that we have, the Union Information Technology Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad will today release the results of the second edition of the ranking of states on support to startup ecosystems through a virtual felicitation ceremony. Railways Minister Piyush Goyal, Civil Aviation Minister Hardeep Singh Puri and Minister of State for Commerce and Industry Som Prakash will also grace the occasion. The Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade conducted the second edition of the state's startup ranking exercise with a key objective to foster competitiveness and propel states and union territories to work proactively towards uplifting the startup ecosystems. The rankings are based on the initiatives taken to develop the startup ecosystem for promoting budding entrepreneurs. The state's startup ranking system framework 2019 has 7 broad reform areas consisting of 30 action points. A total of 22 states, 3 union territories participated in the exercise. An evaluation committee comprising of independent experts from the startup ecosystem carried out a detailed assessment of responses across various parameters. To establish uniformity and to ensure standardization in the ranking process, states and union territories have been divided into 2 groups. While union territories except Delhi and all states in the northeast India except Assam are in one group, all other states are placed in the other group. In the last 2018 edition of the ranking, Gujarat emerged as the best performer in developing the startup ecosystem for budding entrepreneurs. Other top performers that followed the western state were Karnataka, Kerala, Odisha and Rajasthan.
Meghalaya on Thursday launched Piggery mission of over 220 crore rupees, funded by the National Cooperative Development Corporation. The project is a step towards Atmanirbhar Bharat. Announcing the launch of the mission, Meghalaya Chief Minister Narendra Modi said that the new mission will boost pork production in the state. It will also boost economic growth, promote entrepreneurship, social sector development, infrastructure and rural development. The state received the first funding installment of Rs 52.36 crore from the NCDC to kickstart the project, which is banking on subversion of interest or interest-free loans to farmers for 8 years to make this project a success. The state is also looking to converge with government programs like Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act to help farmers set up piggery sheds in villages. Starting with the milk mission in 2018, the state has since launched the Lakadong turmeric mission, the jackfruit mission, the aquaculture mission, the mushroom mission and now the piggery mission.
Well, now taking a look at Union Minister visiting Leh. Union Minority Affairs Minister Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi is on a 2-day visit to Leh. On his maiden visit to Ladakh after it became a union territory, the minister reviewed the implementation of various central schemes with senior officials of the Union Territory administration. The minister appealed to the administration to list out central schemes that need additional funding to reach the benefit to every individual citizen. He assured that Ladakh would be provided sufficient funds to bring the development and for the welfare of people. Union Minority Affairs Minister Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi also visited various educational institutions set up by the minority religious organizations in Leh. He also visited minority dominant village Chuhot in Leh to interact with the public and inquire about the implementation of central welfare schemes. Minority Affairs Minister also laid the foundation stone for the student hostel facility for the Imamia Model School in suburban village near Leh. He later interacted with intellectuals to know the progress made in post-Union Territory status after the revoking of Article 370 in Ladakh region.
And now we get to a very interesting, a positive report coming in from Jammu and Kashmir with an objective of taking governance at the doorsteps of common public. The first day of mass inclusive program of Jammu and Kashmir Union Territory Government, Jan Abhiyan program, saw huge participation of general public at each panchayat in Jammu division, wherein the government officers and officials attended the congregation. In Jan Abhiyan program, a host of issues including drinking water availability, unscheduled power cuts, maintenance and construction of new roads, pendency under social security schemes, opening of new health centers, economic avenues, generating projects in blocks, issues of domicile, caste certificate, dependency certificates, etc., revenue issues and other host of issues faced by common public from different departments were raised. Earlier, Jammu and Kashmir Union Territory Chief Secretary B.V.R. Subramaniam chaired a meeting of the Committee of Secretaries to take stock of preparations being put in place to conduct a first-of-its-kind proactive government beneficiary interface Jan Abhiyan with threefold goals of Jan Sunwai, Adhikar Abhiyan and Unnat Gram Abhiyan.
Well, moving to our next story, that's from a positive story again. The construction of the newly elevated stretches along the Seoni-Nagpur highway has come in for a lot of praise recently. The elevated stretch runs through the Pench Tiger Reserve and it benefits not only humans in the region but also helps protect animals thriving around the National Highway 44. Let's take a look at this report by our correspondent Taposh Bhattacharya.
For long, there has been debate regarding development activities and preserving wildlife at the same time. But it seems a 16-kilometer stretch on the National Highway 44 over the Pench Tiger Reserve has provided answer to this conundrum. Construction of new elevated stretches along the Seoni-Nagpur highway has been making waves among the conservationists. This elevated stretch runs through the Pench Tiger Reserves, benefits not only humans in the region, but also help protect animals thriving around the National Highway 44. Central India has been recognized as one of the regions with the highest potential for long-term tiger conservation in the country. Behold, India's first dedicated corridor for wild animals at Pench Tiger Reserve, which is a classic example of mitigation measures undertaken to reduce wild animal mortality and vital for the long-term viability of tiger population in the central Indian landscape. Along a 16.1 kilometer length of the National Highway 44 passing through forest adjoining the Pench Tiger Reserves and intersecting the Pench Navagaon Nagzira Tiger Corridor, 9 animal crossing structures were constructed. Thanks to the country's first and largest dedicated underpass for animals in the world. These corridors have been fitted with the CCTV cameras to monitor the movement of animals.
These underpasses represent one of the most interesting examples of the conservation and the development, where the road building agencies have been able to make a road, a 4-lane highway, and the developmental and for the conservation, these mitigation measures have been proposed along this highway. There are more than 20,000 kilometers of roads which pass to the protected areas, and these mitigation measures on NH7 is just the beginning.
9 crossing structures including 5 animal underpasses and 4 minor bridges have been created. 18 wild animal species were found using these underpasses. 7 species of small mammals were also found to use the structures. These included Indian hare, jungle cat, which are the most frequent user of the underpasses, and the rare rusty spotted cat. Among the wild ungulates, the 5 major species, spotted deer, GAUR, NILGAI, SAMBAR, and wild pig were found to use the structures. Tiger, leopard, wild dog, sloth bear, and jackal, the major carnivore species in the landscape, were found using the structures with varying frequencies. A total of 89 tiger crossings were recorded from 6 of the 9 structures by 11 individual tigers. The structures are located along a 16.1 kilometer section of the highway that cuts across tiger reserves and adjoining forest. These underpasses has the potential to be a game changer for a country like India, which is trying to achieve sustainable development goals. With cameraman Mohit Joshi, this is Taposh Bhattacharya, TD India.
Well, animal underpasses there, in Pench, a blueprint for conservation, I would say.
Yes, indeed, and it's an interesting report there, a boon there not only for the humans but the animals as well. And up next, we'll get you an update on the COVID-19 situation from across the country. The recovery rate has reached 77.74%. The Health Ministry said that the total number of recoveries has reached 34,71,783. It said that the constant increase in recoveries has ensured that the actual caseload of the country is reduced and currently comprises only 20.58% of the total positive cases. Effective implementation of test, track and treat approach has led to higher recoveries and lower fatality. Currently, India's case fatality rate is at 1.68%.
Well, early identification through aggressive and wide-scale testing, prompt and effective treatment in supervised home facility isolation and hospitals, and enhanced clinical skills of ICU doctors have actively led to a high recovery rate from COVID-19 in India. According to the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, there has been an unprecedented surge in COVID recoveries in India. There is more than 100% increase in patients recovered and discharged in the past 29 days.
And up next, we get you more news related to coronavirus in our COVID-19 wrap.
The Union Health Ministry on Thursday issued revised SOPs for conducting exams to contain the spread of COVID-19. Health Ministry said that examination centers are frequented by large number of students and staff. The new guidelines include entry and exit measures, safety protocols, as well as the procedure for symptomatic candidates and centers in containment zones. The West Bengal government has decided to lift the statewide lockdown on September 12 to facilitate the students appearing for NEET exam on September 13. Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee took to Twitter to announce the decision after requests from students. The state government will also run special metro services in Kolkata on the NEET exam day. Odisha government has issued detailed guidelines to hold Durga Puja, Kali Puja and Lakshmi Puja celebrations in the state. Not more than 7 people are allowed to be present at a time in pandals, while the immersion processions and the use of public address systems will remain prohibited.
And time now to get to our next segment, Across the Globe, wherein we get you updates from across the globe. Take a look.
Well, our first look would be stories about COVID-19 and how the world has been impacted by it. Let's take a look at the updates on COVID-19. Over 2 crore 83 lakh coronavirus cases have been reported worldwide, with over 9 lakh 13,000 deaths reported. As many as 2 crore 3 lakh people have recovered from coronavirus so far. United States continues to top the list amongst the worst hit by the pandemic so far, with the highest number of infection. United States has over 65 lakh 87,000 cases of coronavirus, with the death toll now over 1 lakh 96,000. In terms of death toll, United States is followed by Brazil, which has recorded over 1 lakh 29,000 deaths. Brazil currently has 42 lakh 39,000 cases of infection due to COVID-19.
And let's get to more news. World Health Organization has stressed that AstraZeneca's pause of an experimental vaccine for COVID-19 after the illness of a participant is a wake-up call, but should not discourage researchers. The governments are desperate for a vaccine to help end the COVID-19 pandemic, which has caused more than 9 lakh deaths and global economic turmoil. The WHO had earlier flagged AstraZeneca's being a vaccine candidate being developed with Oxford University, and that was touted to be the most promising one. However, the drug maker suspended late-stage trials on its potential vaccine this week after a participant in Britain was reported to be suffering from symptoms associated with a rare spinal inflammatory disorder.
Well, that particular vaccine trial pause a wake-up call according to the WHO. But moving ahead, the United States Senate on Thursday killed a $300 billion coronavirus aid bill written by Senate Republican leadership as Democrats blocked the measure on a procedural vote. The Senate voted 52 for, 47 against to advance the bill, short of the 60 vote needed to continue debate on the measure. The vote comes as the number of infections due to coronavirus increased to over 65 lakh 86,000 and the death toll rising to over 1 lakh 96,000 in the United States. Earlier this year, Congress quickly passed 4 major bills providing about $3 trillion to respond to the COVID-19 crisis. The Democratic-controlled House of Representatives passed a bill in May that would provide another $3 trillion in aid, but gridlock has since prevailed.
And in more international news, New York today marks the 19th anniversary of the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks, which destroyed the city's famous Twin Towers. The city will hold its annual ceremony in memory of the nearly 3,000 people who died in this terrorist attack. Preparations were underway at the 9/11 Memorial and Museum to commemorate the 19th anniversary. Due to COVID-19 pandemic, the museum will play a pre-recorded reading of families of victims and stream it on their website instead of a large ceremony. The memorial will be open to public in the afternoon, while families of the victims will be allowed to visit in the morning.
Well, 102 minutes that shook the world and took America by storm. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi paid tributes on 9/11, that's the September attack day. In a tweet, the Prime Minister said, and I quote, "The world remembers 9/11 for the dastardly attack on this day in United States of America. If only humankind had walked on the path of Jai Jagat, given by Acharya Vinoba Bhave and Swami Vivekananda's message of universal brotherhood, given in 1893, the destruction that followed would not have occurred."
And next in Breakfast News is our segment Web Review. Our correspondent Arun is joining us with that. Arun, good morning. Let us know what is making it to the headlines in the print today.
Good morning, Preeti. Good morning, Anil, and good morning, all our viewers. And we are back again with this segment of Web News Review. Well, so let's begin this segment. Now, the first news article is from Hindustan Times. Now, it is said that one photograph is equal to 1,000 words, or picture speaks louder than words. So in most of the newspapers, we have seen that the induction ceremony of Rafale jets is dominating all the newspaper websites primarily. And Hindustan Times says that Rafale jets inducted into Indian Air Force and will be part of Golden Arrow Squadron. You can look at the picture. Now, this beautiful picture depicts that how the defense capabilities and capacities of India is increasing. And Rajnath Singh, the defense minister, also said that Rafale is a stern message to those who are eyeing the sovereignty of our country. All right, so now second big news is from the Statesman. Now, Statesman says that tomorrow will be an important day for the people of Madhya Pradesh because Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be participating in the Grih Pravesham and he will be inaugurating 1.75 lakh houses. Now, this will be an e-inauguration and Prime Minister tomorrow will be e-inaugurating 1.75 lakh houses built under Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin in Madhya Pradesh. And it is a dream and vision of Prime Minister Modi to provide housing for all by 2022. So that's a big and important news as far as Awas or housing sector is concerned. Now, let's move on to the third big news story. And this is news story is from Indian Express. Now, Vice President Venkaiah Naidu has said that education system should meet formidable challenges of 21st century. Now, he also appreciated the national education policy. And of course, he said that during the national education policy, and he of course said that the national education policy will play an important role in building knowledge and innovation hub. As far as India is concerned, it will make India a knowledge and innovation hub. So let's now move on to the fourth big story. Now, this story is from Times of India. Now, Times of India is writing an article. It says the Supreme Court extends loan repayment moratorium till September 28th. Now, this is a big relief for the loan borrowers because earlier this deadline was till 31st of August, and now the Supreme Court has extended this deadline till 28th of September. And meanwhile, the Finance Ministry has also, formed an expert committee headed by Rajiv Maharishi. Now, they'll be looking into various aspects of NPA and as far as this moratorium period is concerned, and how can more cushion be given to the home loan or primarily the loan borrowers going forward. So, expert committee will look into that. So, that's what Times of India has written in this newspaper article. Now, fifth news is, of course, that's everybody's watching for when we talk about the AstraZeneca. Now, the DNA, it says that will world's second COVID-19 vaccine be developed by end of 2020. So, AstraZeneca CEO Pascal Soriot is very much confident on that part, and he's saying in an exclusive interview to the newspaper Guardian, and he actually says that the pauses in the trial is a common thing that happens. But at the time of COVID-19 vaccine development, actually entire world is looking at AstraZeneca as far as the vaccine development is concerned, and that's the reason it is coming into limelight. But yes, AstraZeneca CEO is very much confident that the vaccine development is very much likely by the end of 2020. So that's what DNA is quoting the CEO of AstraZeneca. Sixth big news is from the Hindu. Now, Home Ministry grants FCRA registration to Golden Temple. So now, after this thing, after the permission by the Home Ministry, Golden Temple will be in a position to accept donation from the people who are living on the foreign soil, or the foreigners can also donate as far as Golden Temple is concerned. Well, till now, the Golden Temple could only accept donations from the domestic people or people who are living in India only. That's an important development because many of the devotees of Gurudwara Harminder Sahib, they are living outside India, and if in case they wanted to donate, they can now come forward and donate to the Golden Temple. But the seventh big news is from Economic Times. Now, hiring activities increases 12% month on month. So yes, it's a good news as far as the job sector is concerned, job market is concerned, because Naukri Job Speak Index, they did a survey and they found that the month-on-month increase as far as hiring is concerned, it is picking up by 12%. Although there is a decline on a year-on-year basis, but the good news is that on month-on-month basis, the hiring activity is picking up, and that's what Economic Times has published. Now, important eighth big news is from Mint. Now, this is also a business paper. Now, it says that the Sensex was, see a huge surge of more than 600 points, and it was because of the Reliance Industries, because we are seeing that Reliance Industries has offered a 40% stake to Amazon as far as the retail wing is concerned, and also we have seen that Reliance Industries surged by 8% in yesterday's trading session. And Reliance Industries, because it is a heavyweight on the Sensex, and that's the reason the stock markets were up by more than 650 points in yesterday's trading session. You can see this entire chart as far as stock market is concerned. Well, now the ninth news is from Deccan Herald. Now, all those Formula One lovers, there's an interesting news for you. Now, Sebastian Vettel will now be joining the Aston Martin. Now, he'll be leaving Ferrari. He says goodbye to Ferrari, and the next race he does, this will be for the Aston Martin. That means the Formula One racing, as far as 2021 is concerned, Sebastian Vettel will be joining Aston Martin. But the big question is, will the four-time Formula One world champion Sebastian Vettel will be in a position to recreate that magic when he drives the Aston Martin? So that's a big question. But yes, it's an interesting news as far as Formula One is concerned. So last but not the least, this news is from the Twitter handle of Ministry of Civil Aviation. It's a good news shared by the Ministry of Civil Aviation that close to 13 lakh passengers or Indians have come back under the various initiatives of Vande Bharat mission. So it says that 13.74 lakh stranded Indians have returned or have been repatriated through various modes of Vande Bharat mission. So yes, Vande Bharat mission continues to bring smiles on Indians who were stranded on the foreign soil. So that's it in this edition of Web News Review. But for all the news and development, you can always log on to our website ddinews.gov.in. But for other news, back to you, Anil and Preeti.
All right, Arun, thank you so much for joining us with that detailed and comprehensive press review. Time now to get to our other segment. The next segment is?
Well, the next segment is sports, and sports we begin off with the US Open, where there's a big fight that's on between for the women's singles final positions that need to be taken. Let's start with the story there on US Open. World number 4, that's Naomi Osaka, has beaten Jennifer Brady there 7-6, 3-6, 6-1 to reach her second US Open final. She next faces either Serena Williams or Victoria Azarenka in the final. That's on Saturday at Flushing Meadows. Osaka took the first set 7-6, chasing her down. Brady made a brilliant comeback to win the second set 6-3. But Osaka did not miss any chance to reach her second US Open final and broke Jennifer Brady in the third set to take a 3-1 lead. Up next in the battle is the two super moms there, Serena Williams and Victoria Azarenka at the Atara Stadium. Serena Williams winning the first set 6-1. Victoria Azarenka bouncing back strongly, taking the second set 6-3. In the third set, she's leading 3-0. Two moms are meeting in the Grand Slam semi-final for the first time. Both are attempting to land their maiden Grand Slam titles as mothers. Williams last triumphed at the 2017 Australian Open, and this is the 9th Grand Slam where the 38-year-old is attempting to tie Margaret Court's all-time record of 24 majors.
And every day we get you a special report which talks of health, and up next is our health segment. Anemia is the most common nutritional deficiency disorder in the world. Prevalence of anemia is high in pregnant and lactating women and also adolescent girls. How does anemia affect women? Let's find out in this report.
Anemia is a major health problem. Anemia may cause health risks to the women. Iron deficiency is a common cause of anemia.
Anemia is basically deficiency of hemoglobin or decrease in the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood. The level of hemoglobin in the female, it is 12 to 14 grams. If it is lesser than this, then it is called as anemia, and majority of them are because of the nutritional deficiency, which is called as iron deficiency anemia. The symptoms of anemia are not very specific. They are very subtle symptoms, like you feel tired, you feel lethargic, and sometimes you feel breathlessness after walking for a short distance. And if the anemia is very severe and if there is hypoxia, you may be having altered consciousness level.
A diet low on nutrition and iron content make women susceptible to iron deficiency anemia and its detrimental effects.
Supplementation of iron is a very simplest way to take, and dietary supplementation by eating all the seasonal fruits. You can take the fruits which are available in that particular season. You have to take a healthy diet, and healthy diet includes a leafy vegetable, inclusion of leafy vegetable in your diet, and also you can cook your food in the iron utensils. And if you really want to take sweet dish and you are anemic, I think there is no source better than the jaggery.
Take iron-rich diet to prevent anemia. Anemia in women can be prevented by taking some precautions and improving their nutrition. Kiran Bhardwaj, DD News.
Well, September 11th today, 111 days still left in this particular year 2020, but let's go down memory lane and take a look at all the important events that took place on this very day.
On September 11th, 1893, Swami Vivekananda delivered his first speech in the Parliament of the World's Religions in Chicago. On this day in 1895, Vinoba Bhave, best known for Bhudan movement, was born in Maharashtra. He is considered a national teacher of India and spiritual successor of Mahatma Gandhi. On the same day in 1906, Mahatma Gandhi launched non-violence movement in Johannesburg to oppose racist policies in South Africa. On this day in 1958, Armed Forces Special Powers Act was enacted. AFSPA grants special powers to the Army and Central Paramilitary Forces deployed in disturbed areas. On this day, famous Hindi poet Mahadevi Verma passed away in Allahabad.
And now we get you the weather report. According to the satellite picture, an offshore trough at mean sea level runs from Maharashtra coast to Kerala coast. Under its influence, fairly widespread to widespread rainfall with isolated heavy falls, thunderstorm and lightning is likely over peninsular India during the next 3 to 4 days. Heavy to very heavy rainfall at isolated places is likely over coastal Karnataka during 11th and 13th September, and South Interior Karnataka and Kerala and Mahe today, and also extremely heavy rainfall at isolated places is likely over coastal and South Interior Karnataka today.
Well, heavy rainfall at isolated places over sub-Himalayan West Bengal and Sikkim during the next 3 to 4 days, and also the northeast India during the next 3 to 4 days. Moderate thunderstorm with lightning with isolated places over Chhattisgarh, East Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, sub-Himalayan West Bengal, Sikkim, Manipur, Assam, Meghalaya and Telangana during the next 12 hours. Let's now take a look at the weather in your city in this report.
And with this, we come to the end of this edition of Breakfast News this morning. As we're headed for a weekend ahead, We close this bulletin, we close breakfast news on a very adventurous, on a very thrilling watch out, which we bring for you from Brazil.
Well, you need to watch this, you need to enjoy, and
Yes.
be careful to have a safe and wonderful weekend ahead. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. Take care.
Namaskar.